Welcome to our new show, Green Gardens to Chocolate, the real comfort food. I'm Binah.
Hi, I'm Rita Rivera, and together Joy and I are going to take you along with us as we explore the importance of eating well, of reclaiming our health and vitality, and also to understand how the choices we make every day impact the health and vitality of our planet. On our show, we are going to be presenting you with delicious, scrumptious recipes that you'll be able to try at home. We will look at sustainability with really engaging interviews, stories with notables in our community, authors, healthcare practitioners, and even local entrepreneurs. So come along with us as we do these wonderful on-site visits and experience the richness and diversity in our community, learn about nutrition along the way, and understanding how delicious, nutritious food can be the go-to place for our comfort food. We're so excited about today's show.
It is all about protein.
It's all about protein.
I will be interviewing a Santa Cruz entrepreneur, Lance Leonard, from New Phoenix Rising, a local spirulina company.
And we will be joined by Elizabeth Borelli, author of Binah Living, who is going to share one of her favorite high-protein vegetarian recipes.
And Lance will also have a recipe for us in how to use spirulina for a high-protein smoothie. So Rita, let's go ahead and bust some of these protein myths.
Here we go. You know, one of the most common questions that a vegan or vegetarian will be asked is, so where do you get your protein? The truth is, it's everywhere. It's in your vegetables, grains, legumes, seeds, nuts, and even in fruits. And one of the cleanest and most digestible sources of protein, complete protein, is in spirulina, which you are going to be learning about in today's show. So what is a protein? Proteins are made from amino acids. There are 20 different amino acids that connect together in varying sequences by forming chains, very similar to how all the words in the dictionary are made from the same 26 letters. There are 8 amino acids that people cannot make and must be obtained from our diets, and these are referred to as essential amino acids. Proteins are the building blocks of life. They form the basis of living tissue. Think about anything that your body does, and protein will be involved. Proteins build and maintain our cells. Proteins are enzymes which catalyze biochemical reactions. And proteins make up our hormones, which signal messages between our cells. Antibodies, another protein, helps your body fight infection. And your body can use protein for its energy needs when carbohydrates are depleted. So it's important to consider how much protein do we really need. The amino acid demands of our body will vary according to many factors, including our age, sex, diet, body composition, our lifestyle, especially if we need to consider our physical activity demands. Even environmental stressors will be a factor. Recommendations for protein intake can vary quite a bit from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to the World Health Organization to independent doctors and researchers. And I spoke about this with Dr. Connie Sanchez, a Monterey naturopathic doctor. Dr. Sanchez believes that we do not need as much as we have been led to believe. Certainly growing children and infants do have a higher demand for protein. However, this is a time when you are growing rapidly and need more growth hormones and proteins. Adults need protein for repair, not so much for growth. And Dr. Sanchez feels that adult protein intake is in excess of what is needed. Her research leads her to believe that the adult requires approximately 30 grams of protein per day. However, today, the average American consumes between 70 to 110 grams of protein per day, which is far in excess of what is actually needed for our health. And much of that is in the form of animal protein. Protein is measured in grams, and a gram is the standard unit of mass in the metric system. And I think that having a visual here of a gram is going to be very helpful when you consider just how many grams of protein you may be consuming. So what are some common everyday objects that weigh just 1 gram? A single dime weighs 1 gram. Because a gram is so light, that's why you often see things measured in hundreds of grams. So I'm going to show you that in this glass dish, I have 30 dimes, which weigh approximately 30 grams. And you can see how that fits right into the palm of my hand. So between 30 and 40 grams is the approximate weight for an adult's daily protein intake. And in some cases, a little less, and in some cases, more. And there are documented effects regarding what happens when there is too much animal protein in the diet. This is very hard on the kidneys. Protein contains nitrogen, and the nitrogen has to be removed because it is toxic to the body. There's a lot of confusion about complete and incomplete proteins in a vegan or vegetarian diet. People think and say that you have to be really careful if you are a vegetarian or vegan in getting the necessary complete proteins to be healthy. All plants have all the amino acids. It is not possible to eat food on this planet that is not complete. Nevertheless, some plants have lesser or limiting amounts of certain amino acids. And as a consequence, it becomes most important to eat a variety of all plants in their whole food form throughout the day.
Did you know that the beauty about consuming plants for our protein is that plants deliver the protein as amino acids? The body utilizes it directly as is, whereas in other forms, meat and dairy, the body has to convert the protein to amino acids, and that uses up precious nutrients in the body. That's why when we have a meat or dairy meal, we can feel tired afterwards. The 10 most protein-rich plant-based foods are spirulina, lentils, hemp seeds, chia seeds, quinoa, nutritional yeast, a variety of seeds, nuts, beans, and tempeh. Welcome back to my kitchen, and here we are with rising star Elizabeth Borelli. She is a wellness expert and an author, and this is her wonderful book, Binah Living, that you can find on Amazon. It is chock full of fabulous recipes, high protein recipes. And today she is going to be teaching a lovely high protein dense recipe. So what do you have for us, Elizabeth?
Well, thank you for having me, Joy. It's a pleasure to be here. So today I am making my high protein springtime salad. And it's high protein because it combines lentils, which are one of the highest protein plant foods.
Actually, it's among the top 10 most nutrient dense high protein plant foods.
And combining it with quinoa, which is also very high in protein, contains all 9 amino acids. And what a lot of people don't know is that these grains, legumes and grains, along with lots of different combinations, can be cooked together in the same pot. So it really brings a lot of interesting flavor and texture to your dishes without using more than one pot. This is a one-pot dish, which is the way I like to cook. I like to keep it simple. So yes, that's what I'll be demonstrating today.
Wonderful. Well, let's go for it.
Okay, great. Well, we've got our ingredients here, and essentially it's just made with the lentils. And you can use, these are black lentils, but you could use green or, let's see, probably not red because they cook a lot faster. But I would say either the black or the green. And then for the quinoa, this is red quinoa, but you can use any color quinoa as well. And then we're combining these two ingredients. We're going to cook them in a pot a cup each, and we'll cook them together, starting with the lentils, for about 30 minutes total. And while these two ingredients are cooking, we can prep the rest of the ingredients, which are red onion, fennel. You could use kale or cabbage for this dish, and then top it off with some fresh salsa and a little bit of salt, and that's it.
Wonderful. And though this particular recipe is not included in your book.
It's not in my book. There's a version of it in my book, but I modified it for today, and it will be on my website.
So here is her website.
ElizabethBorelli.com.
Yes, and please check it out. She has chock full of wonderful free information that you'll find very informative. Really great website.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we've been cooking this dish on the stove, so I'm going to bring it over.
Terrific.
And we will dish it out so
that
people
sounds
will
great.
see how delicious it looks.
So you can see it's nice and colorful with the kale and the red onion. And this makes this packs really well for a delicious and easy traveling lunch. So if you're off to work for the day or wherever you go, this is really easy to bring and have. It can be served warm or cool, room temperature.
Beautiful dish. Look at that. And you know, the greens can be added also at the end raw, so they retain all of their enzymes and phytonutrients. If you slice them really, really thin, they're just a nice crunchy addition to the dish.
It adds some nice texture.
Yeah.
And then the salsa is added right at the end. So you can just, you know, if you like spicy food,
I do.
Select your salsa spicy or make your salsa spicy. So it's pretty versatile. You can just customize it to your particular likes.
And could this be served as a cold salad as well?
It's delicious cold.
Yeah.
So it can be served as
how great that looks.
Our guest today, Lance Leonard, is the CEO of New Phoenix Rising Corporation and has over 30 years' experience in the nutritional products industry. He's been expanding and applying his knowledge of health, nutrition, and consciousness to help people since 1975. His main interests are in the area of microbiology, quantum physics, and energy medicine, and have been an ongoing area of research for him for several decades. His use of spiritual principles in business resulted in the creation of a highly successful nutritional products enterprise, which enabled him to retire from business at the age of 29 to follow his heart's desire and build a 42-foot wooden sailboat. He then sailed this boat over 10,000 miles around the Pacific with his family. During this time of business hiatus, he was also a full-time father and worked on several community projects in the nonprofit arena. Additionally, Lance has spent time working in public radio, being a professional counselor and mentor to young people, and is trained in the fine art of traditional wooden boat building. So yes, tell us, what is spirulina and why is this plant so particularly interesting?
Well, spirulina is a microscopic blue-green algae that scientists estimate to be 3.5 billion years old. It's one of the oldest known life forms on the planet. And although it's been eaten for thousands of years by indigenous people in Africa and Central America, it's only really been discovered, so to speak, in the West in the last 50 or so years.
Why did you get involved? Why and how did you get involved with spirulina?
It's another one of those, funny stories of life where you're not really planning on something, but then it just happens. I was interested, and I still am, actually. I'm a sailor, and I love to sail on small boats across big oceans. And back, over 30 years ago, I was dreaming about building a sailboat and crossing oceans, and I came across an article that talked about spirulina. This was in the late 70s, right around 1980, and it talked about it as a food that you can actually live on. And I thought, what a great thing to have in a life raft in a sailboat. About the same time, my wife heard about it from another source, and she thought to herself, wow, this sounds like a great thing just to use on a regular basis. So she started using it, getting great results, and we both became very interested in it. And we learned that a man named Christopher Hills, who had a company back then called Light Force that was promoting it, was really the main source of it at the time. So we got some from him, we loved it, and we became involved with him and his company.
Tell us more about Christopher Hill.
Christopher Hills is a visionary philanthropist. He's the late Christopher Hills. He's no longer with us. He became our best friend through our association, but he's a visionary scientist, humanitarian, and successful businessman, among many other things. In fact, if you have time, look him up on Wikipedia. Christopher Hills, the bio there is quite fascinating and gives a scope of some of the things that he's done. Gives a good overview of his life. But he was interested in the 50s in finding ways to feed starving people. And he worked with Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura from Japan, who was appointed by the emperor during World War II to find alternate protein sources. And this goes back even farther than that. In World War I in Germany, they were working with algae and other substances to create protein for food shortages, or anticipated food shortages. So that's where his work began. And at first they were discovering or working with another algae called chlorella. And once they came across spirulina in the 60s, they realized this is the stuff. This is far superior to anything we've ever seen. And they spent about 10 years trying to enlist world governments to grow it and feed starving people. And at that point, they realized that the governments weren't moving quickly and that they needed to do something else. And that's when Christopher started the company Light Force that my wife and I became involved with later on. So he was a great inspiration and a great mentor to us, and as I said, became a very good friend. It's amazing.
And where's the pigments? What's role does pigments?
Well, there are many pigments in spirulina, and the thing about pigments are everything on Earth exists, as we know from our biology classes in high school, from photosynthesis. The light from the sun interacting with the chemicals produces pigments. Now, pigments come in different colors. Pigments are colors, and these pigments actually, as we're learning now, have a great deal to do with health in the immune system and many other areas of the body. We're only beginning to understand how important they are. 20 or 30 years ago, Christopher understood this importance, before, Christopher Hills that is, before the science really caught up with it. Now, one of the most rare pigments on the planet is called phycocyanin. Spirulina has that in abundance. And phycocyanin is the blue pigment. Now, some people may be familiar with the Indian system of chakras in the body. These are energy systems, energy centers rather, in the body, and each one is associated with a different color or a different frequency of energy. The frequencies of energy that are in phycocyanin are in the higher chakra range, you might say. They're in the higher frequency range. So they are very important for higher functions. For example, recently it's been learned that phycocyanin helps with neural stem cell production. So this is a support for the whole body's immune system, for the nervous system, for many parts of the body. So the pigments are a key, I believe, to health. When we have all these various pigments in our diet, we're supporting different levels of health in our body, different areas of health. And phycocyanin just happens to be a rare pigment, and it supports, I believe, it supports higher consciousness because it actually supports the brain and other things related to the brain. It contains those higher frequency colors that are so hard to find in other foods. That's why people are excited about things like blueberries, because there's a blue pigment in there that they're beginning to understand is very healing. Well, this is like that, only even more. So it's very, very potent, very healing.
Healing and very rare in nature.
That's right.
Yeah.
And very abundant in spirulina, and especially in certain spirulinas, because not all spirulinas are alike. Most people don't realize that 70% of the spirulina that's grown, or that's sold rather, in the U.S. right now comes from China. All of that spirulina, well, I would say, I can't say all of it, but most of it is contaminated with metals, and all of it's irradiated. So we're, it's important to know where your spirulina is coming from. In our case, it's coming from here in the U.S., It's pure, it's not irradiated, and it's not contaminated with metals. It's checked daily for contaminants. It's very, very pure and very potent because we know how to grow it so that there's about 3 to 5 times as much phycocyanin in it than any other spirulina out there. So
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's the leading edge of spirulina.
It certainly is. And tell us, why are you calling it biolumina spirulina?
Well,
what is that biolumina piece?
We thought we really need to give this another name, because what we're offering is more than just spirulina. It's not only pure, it's not only the most potent, but we also treat it with a quantum physics process called quantum infusion. This was developed by a quantum physicist from Russia who's been working on this for several decades. It's an easy way to understand it is to think about how acupuncture works. In traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture works through the body's meridian system. Now, many people don't realize it, but the meridian system has actually been proven to exist by science now, right here in universities in California. So this is not just folklore anymore. This is reality. We may not understand exactly how it works, but we know that it exists. The frequencies that we add to the spirulina, and when I say frequencies, we're not adding any physical ingredients. We're doing a process to the spirulina by adding subatomic frequencies. These frequencies support health through the body's meridian system. They support balance, core strength, stress recovery, things that everybody can use. So we actually add this into the spirulina, and the way it works, it sounds like science fiction, but photosynthesis actually is like science fiction if you really comes down to it. Recent research has shown that photosynthesis is not possible without quantum processes. Specifically, the quantum process that's involved in photosynthesis is time travel. Now, when you think about it, it's mind-boggling because all of life on Earth is dependent on photosynthesis. We would not be here without photosynthesis. All of the biomass is created through it, and yet it could not exist without time travel. When we use quantum infusion, we're taking those same principles of nature, really, and we're using them to benefit humans in a way that is beyond just a nutritional support, but actually an energy body support. So that's why we call it biolumina. It's much more than just spirulina.
Well, you know, New Phoenix Rising, your company, does not sound like a typical company. So can you explain a little bit about how it sets apart from other companies?
Yes, I'd be happy to. We see ourselves as carrying on the work of Christopher Hills. Christopher, I said before, was a visionary. He also understood energy medicine, for lack of a better term, these technologies that are quantum-based. Some of them have not been proven scientifically. Others are being studied. The quantum infusion we use is. Christopher used technologies a long time before science was even looking at them. The technology that we use is an example of the way we think. Our mission is to feed the hungry in body, mind, and soul. And what we mean by that is addressing the needs of people on all levels. And that's what Christopher's mission was too. So we see ourselves as carrying that forward. Our values, our core values are authenticity, congruence, and empowerment. What we mean by that is what we offer is real. It's not hype. The product we have is real. Everything that we offer and that we will offer in the future will be in that realm. Congruence means we do what we say we're going to do. It's not just in the product, it's in everything we do. And empowerment means we empower you to create a better life for yourself in health and in other ways as well, because we're also a teaching company, not just a product company. So that's how I see who we are, and that's what sets us apart. The other thing to know about us is we are here in the Monterey Bay. We're 3 years old, and we're really committed to making the planet a better place in many, many ways that are probably too lengthy to go into in this interview, but maybe we'll do that another time.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the quality of your product, for the integrity of your company, and for being with us here today. And right now we're going to go up to the kitchen. So tell us, how do we include spirulina in our daily diet? How simple is it?
Well, there are many ways, and it depends on what your tastes are. But we're going to start here with a really simple way that almost anybody can relate to, because when it comes down to it, there's almost nobody that can't take spirulina. That's one of the things I love about it. It's totally safe. It's non-GMO. It's beyond raw. It's actually a living food. Exactly. Because it goes in a dormant state when it's dried. But we like to make it simple in the beginning and make a smoothie, which is something most people like. So we've got a blender here. We've got some fruit. We've got some juice. We've got some other liquids here. And we're using a little apple juice today, but keep in mind that it's a high glycemic substance, so you may want to, use...
dilute it.
Yeah.
At the very least dilute it, but also chia seeds, which are also very high in protein and loaded with fiber. And if you have watched our previous episode on sugar, you'll know that it has so many wonderful qualities. It would be a wonderful thing to add to your spirulina drink, especially if you're including a juice like apple juice or orange juice as the liquid.
So we'll add some today.
Great.
Yeah. So whether you're athlete, vegetarian, looking to reduce your stress, trying to make sure your baby's healthy when it's born, pregnant mothers can take it. A lot of our grandkids were in the womb when they first got it. All kinds of issues it tends to help with. People who are... let's add the fruit first. That sounds like a good way to go here. So we've got some organic berries here, some blackberries.
Beautiful blackberries.
And add
black is also a very wonderful pigment for nutrition.
Right. And let's see. Keep it simple? Or
let's keep it simple. Okay. So we have great examples here of things that you could add.
We'll put in a little juice, and then
I'm going to put in a little bit of chia seeds. The thing to remember when you're adding chia seeds is that it will, I want to say, plump it up.
Right. And I'm going to add some coconut water if you don't mind.
It will thicken it. Yes, please.
Okay, great. So we'll do a little coconut water to dilute the apple juice a bit. And then one of the key things I've found with making these things is you really want to put the lid on before you turn it on. Oh, and the bioluminescent. Okay, here we go. So let's take some of this. And when you start off, you want to do, no more than a half teaspoon per person.
But we're veterans.
That's right. So we're putting a little more in here.
Yes.
We're putting in a tablespoon, approximately. We're not too scientific here. Actually, let's put in a little bit more because it sounds really good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. And now we'll put the lid on tightly. And just to be safe, I'm going to hold on to it and press one of these buttons.
Okay. Oh, yummy, yummy.
And there's number 2.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, to your health.
To your health.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
It was a pleasure. And thank you for joining us on From Green Gardens to Chocolate, the Real Comfort Food. To our health.
Yummy.